Welcome back to another episode of Talking Chi. I'm Javi. The show is called Talking Chi, where it's all about the energy. And if everything is made of energy, then we have a lot to discuss. So let's get started. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Feel free to contact us at talkingchi@gmail.com. And my guests today, John Ford and Marilyn Cooper, are also going to share their contact information and all about their journeys with peace, conflict, resolution, and the like. Let me um, well, shall I? Why don't you guys go ahead and take a second and introduce yourselves? Thanks for being here. Marilyn, would you like to go first and tell us about your program that you've been doing?
Well, sure. So for, oh gosh, over 20 years, since the turn of the century, I've been doing the peace games for kids, which I developed to address the problem of violence in schools in particular. That was the motivation. And most recently, it morphed into a new program for adults because of my collaboration with John. So we added the component that is prevails in his empathy games, which is more of the heart and the psyche, which I felt was a lacking component in the peace games, which are, more playful, less adult-centric. Kids typically don't want to discuss their feelings. They just want to play and have fun. So yeah, that's where I'm at with all this. And the new program is called the Peace Partnership Project. So there you have it.
Before I move on to John, I will add Marilyn Cooper started her first professional Kung Fu school in 1980. It's been a long time. She's been teaching Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and I wanted to add that, and also just because we're probably going to come back to it, the program that you're talking about, the Peace Games, Pushing for Peace, started as a result of the Columbine High School Massacre in 1999, and I've become a Peace Games ambassador, and myself and my partner Nona have gone to a few schools and facilitated the games, and that has been very fun. And now let's introduce John, or have John introduce himself.
Thanks, Javi. I'm John Ford. I'm a mediator and a trainer. So my profession, my work is really focused on conflict resolution and helping folks to address what I suppose see as the inevitable conflict that we encounter in life, and do so a little bit more productively. And along the way, I've produced, or in some senses inspired by the work of Marshall Rosenberg of nonviolent communication fame, a set of cards with feelings. You see here, feelings and needs. And as Marilyn alluded to, she was looking for, there was a little piece in the Peace Games puzzle that, I don't say it was missing, but there was maybe an opportunity to add something more, which was really bringing in the sort of the piece of how we work with our emotions in conflict. And that was really the start of the, I suppose, the partnership of trying to add to the existing Peace Games. And like you, Javi, I've also been an ambassador. I've also trained with Marilyn as a Tai Chi student. And then the other thing just to mention that I've brought along to the table are talking sticks. So you can see here, this is one talking stick that gets made in Africa. And here's another one. Whoops. Should have got it out. Well, I don't have my other one here. I'll see if I can grab one in a moment, but I've got another one with a giraffe on the top, and that's really inspired by NVC, which has the giraffe as its mascot. And just to quickly say, just very quickly, of the benefit I see of the talking stick is, I always say when you use a talking stick, it's like you bring a mediator into the room, because one of the things that mediators do is help ensure that there's balance in terms of a conversation, that each person has an opportunity of sharing. And absent a mediator, things can often be unbalanced and people don't feel like they have the opportunity to express themselves. So as we develop the program, we wove in opportunities to use both, as I say, this talking stick, and there's another one. I just need to, I thought I had it in my front here, but I don't, but I'll grab
You
one
can
in a
run and
moment
get
and I'll
it
show
when
it to you.
I'm
I'll grab it. Okay. Just
get
hang
it
on.
when I'm because it's beautiful. It's a carved giraffe from Africa, and it's really beautiful. So those little tools are very helpful. So
Here
it's
we go.
not so in your head, you know, you've got an object to relate to. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, so those were really the sort of both, I suppose, at a physical, practical level, the tools that were sort of integrated, but there's more that we'll get to share in terms of how that program has, I suppose, been adapted.
So as we do this show, right now it's early February 2023, and you know, let's just say, suffice to say, there's a lot of, we can say we're sort of surrounded, if you will, by, for lack of a better term, conflict. Yeah.
I knew you were
And
going to say that.
The themes that I have been working with and thinking about, and the questions I've been that have been stirring is, I was having a conversation with someone today saying they're anti-war, and I was thinking to myself, that's interesting. Yes, we could all say we're anti-war. Could we be pro-conflict if we see conflict as an opportunity? And then the other question that I'm thinking, I'd love to hear the martial artist's point of view here is, does peace require muscle memory? In the sense that the monotony of our training and the practice of skills is done so that we achieve mastery of given skills, and we can say that conflict takes skill and training, and resolving conflict takes skill and training. And there's an intellectual process, there's a body process, and so in the sense of the nervous system getting involved, along with the thoughts, the feelings, and the aspirations and the motivations and our envisions for peace, does peace require some sort of muscle memory, if you will? In essence, you know, does the skill require practice? That's essentially what, you know, what I'm asking. And then what does that look like? So I want to just kind of like give that context, those questions of context. Those are the things I'm currently thinking about. For those who haven't, or for those who are just listening and watching, I've talked with John previously on a previous Talking Chi episode, and Marilyn on a previous Talking Chi episode, which I will share to others. So I would say we've been talking about this for a long time, and please go and see those for also more context, more conversation, and more ideas and thoughts. So we can talk about the Peace Partnership Program first, or you can respond to my questions that I presented, or we can interweave your responses within that.
Well, that was pretty stimulating bunch of questions. And I immediately thought of that thing I love to quote, where boredom is the final stage before enlightenment. So you're talking about repetitive practice and muscle memory. So, you know, I have an intense relationship with boredom. I hate to repeat things, and I love to get fresh vision because I'm also a painter, and I don't like to get stuck in a rut and just repeat the same thing over and over again. So I have a very creative approach to all the forms that I practice diligently, like a good little soldier. And because of a lot of creative insight, I came up with, you know, both the Peace games which is relevant to this. And, you know, I don't think that what you're talking about, the muscle memory of training yourself to be a pro peace, is a little bit like what you're talking about, like with Martin Luther King and turn the other cheek, and, you know, somebody smacks you in passive resistance. You're non-reactive. And that is an effective technique, obviously. I mean, Gandhi, MLK got it from Gandhi, and it worked, and it liberated a whole nation of India. So yes, it's an effective technique. But I have to admit, personally, if somebody smacks me, I just want to put them down immediately, because I'm trained. I trained for that, and I like that. So it's in my case, it's very ironic that I push for peace, because I'm a fighter. I like fighting, and, you know, that's my instantaneous response to aggression. Personally,
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you. John?
Yeah, well, I also appreciated, as Marilyn said, that juicy topic. And yeah, I think what you sort of raised, Javi, are really sort of important questions in terms of, you know, when we just look at humanity and how we're all responding to the challenges, you know, of the day. And so one thing I would like to sort of say is, certainly the way I sort of see it, is that conflict is inevitable. So when we look at the world that we live in, you know, when you ask that sort of question, like the guy that says he's anti-war, I get that. In other words, where someone would say that they're anti-war, but that doesn't take away the fact that there is going to be conflict. So you can be anti-war, and to me, that's the behavior of how we're responding to the differences that we encounter in life. And everyone, I think all humans encounter at different points in their life, some more than others, and in different sort of stages, conflicts. And then there are different pathways to addressing them. And I think that muscle sort of memory is like goes in that direction. In fact, that's one of in the program that we have, is sort of helping them explore some of those patterns. So, for example, one of the activities is the turtle races. And in the turtle race, people line up on a line, and they have to move from this one line to the next one. And the winner is the person that crosses the line last. But as we explore that game with the folks, they discover that even though they were all moving slow, and that feels weird, because normally when you're running a race, you're trying to go as fast as possible to win, but you're still in a win-lose sort of domain, which again, like when you're thinking about conflict, it's about, I'm going to win, you're going to lose, we're going to go to war, and I'm going to beat you, that kind of a mentality. And so it's to my mind, it's trying to say, how do we shift our approach so when we encounter these conflict situations, instead of saying our knee-jerk muscle memory old way that our ancestors have been doing it through eons as we fight, and to say, is this necessarily an opportunity to fight? Or, you know, like that Chinese character for conflict, danger, opportunity, is it, as you said, can we be pro-conflict? Can we see it as an opportunity? And I'd say yes. And I think that's the opportunity for humanity, is to shift from seeing all these tricky situations that we call as conflict as being opportunities for war, not thinking twice about it, and saying, how do we start rewiring our collective consciousness to see it as an opportunity? Because typically when people are in a conflict, what it's actually, again, if you know, as you said, when the start of the program, your show is all about energy. Conflict is really a sign that at an energetic level, something isn't working. The energy isn't flowing in the right way. And then we experience this conflict, and we try to force the energetic sort of equation, rather than trying to find a way of moving that energy without having to dominate over the other person. So yeah, I think that's to my mind, that's part of what I believe we're sort of hoping to give people an opportunity to explore through the activities, is what is their relationship to conflict? Is it necessarily win-lose? Is it necessarily war? And then, as I say, deal with the inevitability of it.
Well,
The
I
inevitability
would
of-
like to go ahead, Marilyn, please. Sorry.
The inevitability of conflict, not of war, of conflict.
Right.
I mean, the ultimate
Right.
war is the ultimate conflict, but yeah.
And just like Marilyn, like you were saying, the pioneers like MLK, like Gandhi, like Mandela, and there are many others, they're really consciously seeking to rewire what seems such such a natural response. So again, actually the way we start the program, the first activity when people come into the program is we do sword fingers, and Marilyn can maybe explain a little better than I can the actual activity, and I think you know it as well, Javi. But basically, we do that partly to meet their initial energy as they're just coming into the session, to sort of help them transfer from whatever was going on in their day to being present for the activity. But also through that activity, basically they are either attacking or defending, and that's the cycle that humanity seems to be so stuck in. Is, you attack me, so guess what? I'm going to have to defend myself, and then I defend myself. But to you, you don't think, oh, you noble human defending yourself. I see attack back, and so that other person then decides they're going to defend themselves, and that's when you get into the cycle, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, which, as I say, it's been going on for thousands of years, and it's going to take a lot of effort to break those maybe, as Marilyn would say, those boring habits. But they're also not just boring, but they're actually really destructive.
Can you point your sword fingers at me? I want to see. Just point your fingers towards me, John.
To me?
Yeah. Okay. So this is weird. All right. So I'm being a shield, and he's pointing his fingers towards me. And so I'm walking backwards. He's walking. Keep your sword up. Keep your sword up. Go ahead. Put your sword back up. Okay. So I'm walking backwards. He's in your mind. Just imagine that. And then I'm going to turn this way and point at him. Can you see me? See my fingers? Right now he's a shield. Boom, boom, boom. I'm walking towards him. And then when he decides, because this is a Tai Chi thing, even when you retreat, you attack. So in retreating, he's surmounting an attack. He turns, so turn on a profile, John. Turn your head and body. The other way. The other way. Okay. Yes. Now you attack me. Boom, boom, boom. You're walking at me. Boom. And I turn. So we do this. That's enough. It's very hard to do it through. This is why it's more fun in person. But it gets to be this zigzag pattern, like that, like playing checkers. And it goes from one corner to the next. And then it goes the other way, when you attack. But the interesting thing about it, speaking philosophically, is that, hold on one second, I gotta let somebody in, is that it goes on infinitely. It never gets resolved. And it's a lot like when people have a fight and say, it's your fault. No, it's not. It's your fault. They point a finger. It's a lot of finger pointing and blaming, and it goes on infinitely. It never gets resolved in that context, in that game. People get stuck. So one of the reasons we decided to bring we don't start the peace games that way, but this was a clever idea John and I had after our second run through. We decided after the group got together to just bust into that right away. Just sort of like an icebreaker. It's almost like playing Twister at a party or something. And then, people were sort of out of their minds and in their bodies for the intro. And then we went into introducing the program ourselves and more verbal stuff. So it differs from the peace games immediately. And then we introduced.
I was going to say, did you have people respond to this activity maybe, or did you use any of the empathy set?
Yes. So again, what we would do is we would do an activity and then have a little discussion after each activity to sort of try and connect the dots and to contextualize what we were doing. So we set it up to help them, sort of like Marilyn was sort of saying, to see the futility of the endless loop of attack, defend, attack, defend. And so that set the stage then for us saying, so the rest of what we're going to be doing is exploring other ways of approaching the same intersection, but differently.
So
Sorry,
that's great. So for folks that don't know, the Peace games are 9 different games that are influenced by Kung Fu drills, Tai Chi drills, and Bagua drills. And these are what Marilyn has brought forth to teach kids as a result of the Columbine shootings to help reduce violence in schools, and then also reinforce and propagate empathy. Now with John's set of skills, the empathy set brings about this, what would you say, this verbal tool, filter, paradigm, allowing kids to speak on what is coming up for them, name feelings, name needs. And I have to say, for someone who does a lot of movement, a lot of times, I'm not sure if you've experienced this, Marilyn, a lot of times when I'm doing training, whether it's a form, a hard form, a fast form, a slow form, a soft form, I'll have some various things surface and arise into my consciousness that are like memories, not so fun memories, things that I'm maybe seeking resolution on or peace on. And I sometimes when I stop and do my form, I think to myself, like, why did that come up? How did that arise? What am I looking for? And how is, like, what is going on here? What is that? I would be really curious to know if other people who are movers experience that. I have some thoughts and ideas about it. However, what I will say is that with the feelings and with the needs and empathy set, I'm able to give myself empathy and say, well, rather than going into those habits of blaming someone and reinforcing the cycle of saying so and so was a blank 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 because of blank blank blank, and I'm hurt and I'm a victim because of blank blank blank, and they did this and they did that, and I should have done this if I would have just as I'm doing martial arts, it's funny, the inner dialogue. And so, but what I will say is that the feelings and needs I've been able to give myself empathy and say, wow, like I'm really seeking peace, for lack of a better term, really seeking peace with this and with this sort of issue that's arising. And how may I facilitate that for myself? Or just if there's nothing else, giving another person forgiveness. So I find like the practice of forgiveness happens to come up, as a byproduct of doing these, physical practices.
Well, that's why it was so important to add what John brings to the program. And you less so, this is more for teenagers and adults than little kids. So because then you're exploring what came up for you from your practice of, some feelings like, boy, that pissed me off, and that guy said this and I should have said that, all this kind of agitation, get you stirring up the pot. And then at least in the session that we structured with the Peace Partnership Project, there's an opportunity to put it into words and to actually get past it and not stay stuck in it. So because I don't see, it's not this bad, but it's all, using Kung Fu to relieve your anxieties and hostile feelings. It's almost like people who get drunk and punch a hole in the wall. I mean,
I think sorry to interject. I'm Sosha for anyone watching the live. I'm Marilyn's daughter, and I sort of help with communications on the project. So I'm really happy to see this and hear all of this, because I kind of grew up working on all the movement aspects, and then went into communications as my field. And I think this is just a really simple way for people, you know, people like us that go and deal with our emotional problems by trying to do the martial arts or dance or yoga and try to move through it. It's like, as you're finding the words, you're actively trying to change how you feel about it because you're getting it out of your body. You're having some kind of release. So yeah, I think this is like kind of a new era for us because I don't see a lot of martial arts and body movement schools kind of taking it upon themselves to try to go into this therapeutic zone. And it's not like we're doing formal therapy. It's just it's just allowing yourself to talk about things that are uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable and sometimes you can't find the words. So these simple vocabulary decks, kind of the next phase for us. I think it's really great because we all go to this to express and deal with anger. And I think like a lot of people, especially a lot of intellectual educated people that really study the arts, we get all in our heads and we think, oh, I got to deal with these problems on my own because the ego tells us I'm so strong, I have to just tough it out. But that's, like you were saying, the soft forms, allowing yourself to say, you know what, I'm angry, and where's the root of this problem coming from? So I think it's really great that we're starting to add in this new part of the practice. And I think for all of us, it's going to lead to a lot of positive change. I've already felt like, wow, I don't see other schools doing this, and bringing this to all students. Hey, let's try this. Let's be vulnerable with each other. It's kind of a totally different. It's kind of the opposite of the let's tough it out and train. It's like, okay, now let's have a conversation and be vulnerable with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I've had an ongoing Tai Chi group for 15 years, some of those students, and locally. And so everybody in there feels safe with each other, and they sort of, I can't get myself out of.
I'm sorry, we have a lighting issue, and we're trying so hard because you guys are so well lit there. Maybe that's a bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, we're backlit. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
That looks
I
great.
didn't want to.
That looks better. That looks better.
Better. Okay.
Thank you.
But go ahead.
So the people confide in each other and talk about their problems, and so it's a bit therapeutic when you have an ongoing group. So, but the Peace Partnership Project is, just people who aren't that close. So that's introducing this program, on them consciously, so they can have that experience of closeness, of trust, feeling grounded, centered, and feeling the universality of that they all feel these same things. They're common to all humans. So they stop feeling, so much fear and mistrust and feel more like they're all part of humankind. And
like, it's not weird. It's not just my problem. I'm not alone with this anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are great points. I'm glad you bring up the community aspect, and I'm glad you're here, Sosha. John, I'd like to hear.
I thought it was at 5.
I forgot. I'm terrible with numbers and times and schedules.
But here we are.
I said, "Oh, so come before 5." I forgot it was.
So you're early.
Well, I'm really happy to Javi and John, and thanks for putting this together. Yeah,
John, how about?
I was going to maybe just when you were saying that thing about training and how sometimes, to your surprise, stuff would emerge, thoughts, and you wonder, why is this coming up now, this particular issue in my life or something like that. So in other words, through the movement, it's sort of moving energy and allowing stuff to sort of surface into your mind's eye. And I was thinking how when we start, we do the sword fingers, then we do the introductions, and then the first real activity we do is meditation, which of course is a classic activity where you encounter that dilemma of the emerging thoughts. And so even though people are sitting still, they're dealing with that dilemma. And the whole program, though, so it starts like that, but moves, and we only get to the cards which help them to explore feelings and needs. and just start introducing that as just as a more purposeful way of getting in touch of that energy. I always, even though we're calling them feelings, it's really feelings are talking about the emotional realm, and some say emotions are energy in motion, but there we get towards the end. So we take them through a sequence of more purposeful activities that are more like Sosha was saying, in the body, activities that bring them to that. And as I was saying, so one of the first ones is that sort of exploring our relationship to conflict. So the way you started out, Javi, saying, are we anti-war? Can we see that conflict can be an opportunity for change, for growth, and things like that? But another activity that we introduced that's not part of the formal sort of 9 peace games is I call it the push-pull game. And in many ways, it's really I suppose, a physical manifestation of the prisoner's dilemma. In other words, the dilemma that we all face in life. In other words, where you encounter a situation with another human being where your perception is that it makes sense to collaborate, and they perceive it as an opportunity to compete. And what do you do in that intersection? And there's been a lot of focus on that. The game theorists have applied mathematical formulas to that, and they've basically come up with a simple little formula as to what to do. And what I found fascinating with that activity is how people sort of fall into a sort of kind of, I don't want to say a trap, but they get sort of set up to be asked to essentially to collaborate. And again, going back to that muscle memory thing that you were talking about a little earlier, they just can't seem to help themselves and they want to compete. And so that's, again, a lot of these activities are giving them this in the body experience of realizing, oh, wow, like I didn't realize how hardwired I was to be competitive, when it actually cognitively made sense for me to be collaborative. And that, to me, is, again, one of the dilemmas of humanity, where we're missing out on all these opportunities to work together because we think we should be fighting. So anyway, that's part of the progression. And then
I just want to interject and say, especially if you bring this program to sports teams and people in athletic programs and people that are so used to competition, it's sort of like, I mean, a lot of the communication that we're doing to put this program forward, we're calling it the non-competitive sport. It's like the antidote, it's like, how do you teach people to collaborate? It's pretty hard, like you're saying, like people, especially, I think it's like all cultures, sports are such a big part.
Well, that actually, social, that's one of the, when we're doing, we shared a little bit earlier about the turtle races and how that's still, even though they're going slow, it's still a competition. And after we do that, we basically sort of make that point.
Warps your mind. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
But then we ask them to say, how many games can you think of that are not competitive? And everyone gets stumped, right? Because like, even if we ask that question to just on our little group, and like, so how many games are non-competitive? And they're like, or put it this way, how many games are collaborative? And they're like, huh? And then you ask them how many games are competitive, and then they just start listing them one after the other after the other. And that tells us how we are, in a way, we prime ourselves to be competitive. We put that's what we value, that's what we're teaching. And yet, paradoxically, in a funny way, especially in team sports, the team has to collaborate to compete. And so there's that sort of interesting sort of interplay again between competition and collaboration. But still, I think for most people, if you ask them, is it a jungle out there? Is it sort of dog eat dog? Do you have to be on guard when you go out into the world? Most people are going to say the world is naturally more competitive than it is collaborative. And when you've got those deep-seated beliefs about competition or the world being competitive, that means as we go through life, we're missing out on all these opportunities where we really should be collaborating. And that's what that little push-pull exercise that we do with them really helps them see how, where they're really being asked to collaborate and they can't help themselves, and off they go and they compete. But at least it leaves them with that residue feeling in their body of, oh my, I missed this opportunity. And hopefully it starts helping them with that muscle memory that you were getting at, Javi, in terms of saying, hey, I need to watch myself. I need to catch myself. I shouldn't just default without thinking that this is competitive, that there may actually be an opportunity for me to collaborate here.
Mhm.
Well, John chooses the
Oof.
words very carefully when he introduces the push-pull game. So it's very interesting the way he sets that up.
How,
Can I
how,
ask you guys?
Mm.
yeah.
What,
Oh,
what,
go ahead.
what are the words can you remind me and tell Sosha how you introduce it?
Is that
It's
what you were
clever.
looking for? Abby? Yeah, yeah. Well, basically, so the part of the setup is with that question about how many games can you think of that are collaborative? And then one of the discoveries that the group makes is that whenever we use the game, there's a strong association with competition. So I've sort of primed them like that. So I've got them thinking about that. And then I said to them, all right, now we're going to play the push-pull game. And I say to them, stand up and look for a partner, someone that you can work with. Right. So that's the language of collaboration. But it's also, I've said, the push-pull game. So their mind is thinking, oh, game, competition. And then I say to them, find someone to work with, someone to collaborate with. And they find someone to collaborate with. And I basically say to them, so they stand opposite one another like this in a push position. And I say, the goal of the exercise is to score as many points as possible. And the way you score points is by pushing your partner's elbow behind their back. So if they work together, they both just do this, boom, 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 and they score lots of points because they're collaborating together and they're scoring lots of points. But most of them think this is the competition. And this is this is just another version of the prisoner's dilemma. But they are being, that's part of the point, is to say to them, look, as you go through life, you're going to encounter situations where you think it's competitive, but you're missing an opportunity to be collaborative. And when you
Can
in
I
those
ask you-
environments, you're going to default again because of what you're calling muscle memory. I'm just going to call it, another one would be just to say we're neurologically hardwired. What fires together wires together, and that's what we've been doing through the eons. We've been developing neural pathways that prime us for fight and war.
Right.
What is this prisoner's dilemma to which you refer?
So that the prisoner's dilemma is basically, it's that sort of scenario. The way it goes is that the cops catch two guys doing some, say, like a big bank heist or something. They catch them for something minor, maybe speeding, but they're suspicious that they were involved in the bank heist. They take them to the police station and they separate the two, suspects. If the two suspects collaborate and they don't spill the beans, then they're each going to have this minor infraction. But the cops they separate them and they go to the one and they say, if you spill the beans, you get off free. But that means that person has to betray them, betray
Right.
the other person. And so it's that sort of dilemma, is like the temptation of betrayal, being competitive versus being collaborative. And back in the 1970s, this guy Axelrod, in the early days of the computers, arranged these competitions where people had to write programs to say, what's the best way mathematically to play this game? And what they came up with was the solution, because they had a one competition and what was called tit for tat one, and they had another competition and it also won again. And basically what it sort of distilled down to is to say, if you encounter a life situation where you're a little sort of what's going on here and there's an opportunity for collaboration, your first move should be collaborative. If the other person meets you with collaboration, in other words, you both start doing this, you just keep going, getting lots of points together. If you're collaborative and the other person's competitive, then you respond in kind. That's where you get that tit for tat. But then the third piece of it is the minute the other person changes and reverts to a cooperative or collaborative posture, you're forgiving and you immediately join in with them. And that, sadly, in a way, is us as humans sort of struggling to figure out how, basically how to get along. That's sort of as far as we've got. But it's basically saying when it makes sense to collaborate, take that risk of being collaborative. If the other person responds competitively, don't be naive and think that you can just go on being collaborative, because they'll just keep milking you. And then that's when you have to respond in kind. Pardon?
Yeah. Would you say if you feel that tension from someone else and that competitive energy, like if that came up in the class, do you think the other partner would, a good response would be to just withdraw your energy and come back to yourself and wait for the other person to?
It doesn't work that way.
You well, you can
It's
know, but no, Social's right. Sometimes, in other words, sometimes that's what people will do, is like they'll just, it's almost like they'll lock in back there and
not
say
gonna
now,
play with
and
you
then they'll almost like
anymore.
saying now what, and then that sometimes leads people to like, oh, you're right, and especially if they can
Yeah.
communicate. So again, the sort of the way I set it up is for them not to communicate with so much with one another, but the minute people can start communicating, that's also that big evolutionary leap where we go just beyond sort of physical behavior to be able to say, hey, well, you know, there's an opportunity here for us both to win lots of points if we just work together. And then the other person was like, oh, and then off they go, kind of a thing. So
Can I ask
anyway,
you folks?
that's again along the path of this program.
Yeah, I want to know because, you know, when I didn't talk with you, John, about the results of the program, but I talked with Marilyn. She was just so excited about you know, what happened in the program and the responses from the participants. So what were some of those light bulbs, aha moments that you saw the participants have? What did they verbalize to you as a result of these games and practices?
Well, Javi, we've done the program a couple of times. I don't know that we're, at least for me, I don't know that I feel comfortable talking in specifics. I think we can just talk more in general about these sort of programs. I'd just say it was successful, and yeah. In other words, I don't want to get so much into the specifics of people's experience. But
Okay.
yeah, in other words, what I can say though, I've done this activity, this push-pull game, for example, consistently, or just like when we were talking a little earlier in general about, say, that turtle races. In other words, those games have been done over and over and over again. So there's similar kinds of results. What I've always found interesting though is some groups they have the light bulb moment and they'll all be doing this. And some groups are more competitive and they're all busy locked in sort of a Mortal Kombat kind of a situation. But it's all good. In other words, they're all having their experience, and it gives them all something to reflect on and to chew on and to hopefully sort of to remember and to start rewiring their brains.
Can you
Well,
describe
we were
to me?
also-
I was just going to ask before we finish here, if you could describe to me the empathy aspect in response to the games, and then how the people use the talking stick and the feelings and the needs, and then for those listening or watching right now, how they might if engaging with your program, how they might what they may expect to feel or to experience rather. But Marilyn, you wanted to say something before that. That's going to probably be my final question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Well, we were lucky with the second pilot program, because it was college kids that were on sports teams, so they were in great shape, and they were in a creative writing class, so they were verbal as well. So it was a wonderful experience for all of us, and yeah, a lot of them were very expressive about what they experienced when we went around the circle with the talking stick. You know, they weren't at a loss for words, and yeah, so that was great for us. It just, you know, the whole thing was stellar, a stellar experience. 30 college athletes. And they're on teams. They were mostly on teams, so they really got that concept of you know, being in condition individually and then working with others. That was like boom, right away.
Just to quickly get to how we brought in the cards and the empathy piece. There was another series of activities that really drew from the peace games that I think were really powerful and helpful in priming the pump. So those were the two activities that we framed as really being about being a good listener. And they were lead the follower and operator. And I'll let Marilyn sort of, maybe you can speak to a little bit about what those two games or what those activities were about. But they really help to, in a physical way, give them the sensation and the experience of what it's like to be present for another person, to follow rather than to lead. In other words, so when you're the listener, you're not the leader, you're the follower, you're receiving the energy, you're trying to connect with what the person is saying, and to give them that physical experience and through two really, I think, really powerful activities. And then that segued into the activity again with the cards. So basically the way it works is that, so we've got the feelings and the needs cards. Each person, or not each person, we had one person, or we'll have, depending on the time, one or maybe more, has an opportunity to share something that may be troubling them, that's sort of up for them. Maybe one of those things that you were describing when you're doing your workouts and it starts surfacing and you're like, why is that on my mind? Why is that bothering me? And so that person shares, and the cards are divided amongst the rest of the group. And the job of the group is to see if they can find a match between the cards that they have in their hands and what that person described. And so they would then, like, for example, they may have a card that says, you know, excited. And they would say, well, it seemed like you were excited when this happened. And then you were, and they say, oh, I've got a card that says surprised when this happened, and disappointed because you had hoped for something else. But finally you were relieved because a solution was found. And so each person would put all of the cards down, and we go around the whole group doing that. And based on all of those sort of shares, the person who did the initial speaking has a set of, often a lot of cards in front of them indicating what they may have felt. And then from those, they select the top 7. And then with that additional information, so they've given their initial share, they've identified their top 7 feelings, we then do the same, basically the same activity with the needs cards and discover what they're needing. And so at the end of that, that person who's shared has received empathy from the group by virtue of the group connecting with their feelings and their needs. And that was one of Marshall Rosenberg's simple definitions of empathy, was to say when we can be present to another, connect with them, and put our attention on understanding their feelings and needs, and then demonstrate to them how we've understood that person will experience that as being empathic. And so that was really, that was pretty much what the activity was. When it came to the talking sticks, as I say, we introduced that early on, like when they introduced themselves. I think we used the brighter beaded, nice beaded one. And then along the ways, we had other opportunities of using it. I always think the giraffe works nicely more for heartfelt conversations. It's a little more delicate and a little more soft. But it was really role modeling that idea that when the one person is speaking, we honor that, and that we hold the space for them to share what they need to share. And again, to me, one of the key roles that a mediator or a peacemaker plays is to help establish who's the speakers and who are the listeners, that you don't have a free-for-all. And absent a mediator, a talking stick becomes a really powerful tool of saying, I'm the speaker. And a lot of the time, what I've observed in my practice is what I call lopsided conflict resolution conversations, where two people will be having a conversation, and you know, the one person may share, they may think that they have the talking stick, but the other person ends up doing all of the talking, and it's really all about that other person. And so this makes it very graphically clear, this is the speaker, and then when it transfers to the other person, they become the speaker. And so you have that structural balance, which is so important for conflict resolution.
That's like
Well,
a
and-
microphone.
Yeah, it's like
I want to ask you, before we close, we're going to close.
That was connected with operator. That was connected with the peace game operator, where you're listening to energy, and then we listen to people actually expressing themselves verbally for how what they felt.
Right.
Sorry, go
Marilyn,
ahead.
can I ask you to give your contact information, and then John give also your contact information, and then how also your the contact info for the collaborative peace project before we close this off at the hour mark. We're going to still have some time to elaborate on things, but before the hour is up, please just give your contact info and the information for these projects?
Oh, well, littleriverwest@gmail.com. You mean to contact me or?
Yeah, email.
Yeah,
Email is good.
Email is best.
She's
and
always checking her email. So
Yeah.
yeah, littleriverwest@gmail.
gmail.com. And then we're redoing the website so that people can scroll on it on their cell phones, and that'll have a link to John's empathy program and to all the Peace Games ambassadors. And it'll also, have a little blurb on the Peace Partnership Project as well as the Peace Games.
Yeah, so we're really putting it out there online. It'll be so easy to find us if you look up the Peace Games, pushing for peace.
Peace.org.
Yeah, the website's
Yeah.
pushingforpeace.org. So, and then there's plenty of opportunities to sort of subscribe to our mailing list, because there's so many groups happening in the next few months that Marilyn is gonna, and I'm helping with that function to just invite people, get people to sign up and come do the partnership.
We have a 3-day conference coming up at the end of February, but it's in Vienna. But it's 20 hours on this project, on the Peace Games and the Peace Partnership Project.
Like 3 days, 20 hours. So it's good to do a really concentrated one. But I was going to ask you just before we get off at the end of the hour, do you think it's best for the same group to sign up and do this, at a minimum, like twice a month? Or like once every week seems like a lot, but I feel like if you slowly build it.
We'll work that out. We
Yeah.
can talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hold that thought. That's a great question, and I just want to get John's contact info in.
Sure. So
Before
for
we-
me, I'd say my email is john@johnford.com, and that's my main sort of website. But for the talking sticks and the empathy set cards, those are at it's www.empathyset.com.
Excellent. Thank you. And that's going to be it for our 1-hour radio show. If you want to see the full video, and if we might keep talking a little bit more, you can go to talkingchi@gmail.com. We'll send you that info, or you can find Qigong and Tai Chi with Javi and Nona on YouTube. And this is going to be there as well. So now we're in no man's land, I guess you could say. I want to be respectful of your time. I have a little bit more time. If there's some, for the sake of this video, this context, and this discussion and conversation, if there's some things that you want to elaborate on, that's okay. I know we were talking about operator. There was a great question about what's the frequency at which folks should engage with these practices. I think that's a great question, because it goes back to the muscle memory theme. But obviously, yes. So just a quick check-in with you and your time.
It's on my free YouTube channel. If people want to re-invoke the feelings they had if they were in a group, they could go on the free YouTube channel. And the Peace Games are on there. I do a lot of videos on meditation. The questions you asked me about meditation, John, I've just answered them in, I think, 2 or 3 videos. And they're all getting uploaded to YouTube now, and I'll send you the link. So it answers exactly the questions you were asking.
Great.
Are these ways to just deepen your practice on your own, so that when you come to the group, you have that grounded?
Or if you don't come to the group,
Sure.
so you can do that on your own. You might be, on the other side of the world and in a whole other community. Yeah, you can reach everybody with this stuff.
Yeah, this is great, Javi. Thank you for setting this up so we can.
Yeah.
And now you
Have more,
understand.
Yeah, it's great to hear about what you and John, what you guys are just bringing to the table for people. And I love the creating the safe space thing. It's really beautiful.
Remember that thing I sent you that was so cool? That silent and listen are the same letters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Same
And
letters.
emotions
How
are-
so?
If you all the letters that make up silent are the same letters that you'd use to spell listen.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. How are you on time? Are there some main points just for the sake of the context of this video that you'd like folks that are gonna watch this
Well,
video to
I
know
this is
about
for you,
about the
Javi. I
program?
think John has a dinner date or something. It's 5 now, but Javi, I
Yeah.
think you and Nona are going to be the first people to become Peace Partnership Project facilitators. And I'm going to, after I get back from Europe, I'm going to organize a group around John, around you and Nona and Sosha and
I'll just
Ricky.
be in the class, and then eventually me and my partner will do it too. It seems
Right.
It seems good
and
to
some of
have
my
two.
students. Well,
Yeah.
John suggested, did you want a minimum of 10 or 15? What was your suggestion?
I don't know. Well, I think it's nice to have a decent sized group, just for the sort of the generic experience. But I'd say, yeah, somewhere in that vicinity, 10 to 12 would be great. And
Okay.
sort of with that idea, it's almost like a train the trainer kind of a session where people would take it so that they could then go and do it themselves. And we've developed like an agenda that gives the activity, and then also the sort of almost like the talking points in terms of what each activity is trying to accomplish in terms of that, connecting the dots to conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, just, consciousness studies, whatever you want to, however you want to put it. But I think that'll enable others to sort of take on the work and offer it in other settings.
Right. So
But I would say, I think what I'm happy about and appreciate, Javi, is that we actually did get pretty much in a organic, good way. We got through the whole program. In other words, we got from the sword fingers to the introductions, to the 2 becomes 1, which is the meditation, to the 2 activities that explore conflicts and collaboration, the turtle races, the ones where people go slow, and then also the new push-pull activity, which I think is a really powerful and interesting one that really ties in nicely with pushing for peace. And then there were the 2, we didn't really explain them, but there are these 2 activities that explore listening, which is such a key skill in conflict resolution. Most people are, when they're listening and waiting to reply. And so again, I love the activities where they really just ground people and just being present to the other as they're expressing themselves. And then towards the end, actually, there are a couple of things we got towards the end. The final one really was the empathy set, or the activity with the cards and them having the empathy experience. And then we actually ended, remember, with the we end with turtle push, which is a really great activity I always think it's a great activity for showing people how, when we say to people, get out of your head and into your body, it's an activity that the only way you can do it is when you're in your body. If you're in your head, people blunder and fumble and get it all wrong. So it's really all about sinking into your body, trusting your body, listening to your body. And that's a nice way for them to leave the experience, which is what folks do. So I appreciate that we're able to do that, but also weave in some other philosophical ruminations about life and humans' ability to get along or not get along with one another. So thank you, Javi, for that. And thank you also for Sosha for coming along to the party, and to Marilyn for everything that she does. And I think it really does have
Good news.
John, for keeping us on track.
Good news. I can see we are live on Facebook right now, actually.
Oh, wow.
So that is
the whole
going up. Yeah.
Oh,
And we're still on. We're still on. So in closing, then a couple of things to think about. We were talking about sort of train the trainer in terms of like this program and more facilitations of this. Really like this thought. One of the things that I was thinking about, something to keep chewing on, was, well, the concept of peace. We see in media, peace negotiations, peace talks are successful, or they're not successful, or they're engaging in peace talks or negotiations, and they're not engaging. And we also think, and we hear in our everyday discussions, peacemaker. More peacemakers are needed in our world. I've heard this said, and I was just thinking about, well, what are these processes, and what sort of titles, for lack of a better word, would you give to people that are helping to facilitate tools toward peace? So all of these things came to mind, like peace advocate, peace architect, peace facilitator, peacekeeper, peacemaker, peace evader, maybe, peace
I never heard that one.
denier. I was thinking,
I
was
like
thinking,
peacemaker.
obviously, sometimes someone can be called a peace breaker, but I was thinking to myself, because like sometimes I might be in an argument with someone that I love, and just to be, maybe because of that conditioning and the muscle memory and the neural wiring, sometimes I feel like I'm sort of denying peace, or I'm evading peace just to, just because maybe I'm in that win-lose, paradigm, or I'm in that right-wrong paradigm. And I have to, get
I wouldn't
past
think
that,
get
get past it, and say, hold on, I'm denying myself, and I'm denying the space, and I'm denying my partner, I'm denying us peace. Like, what am I doing? This is preposterous. But it's like, hold on, well, first I gotta give myself empathy. I've gotta, forgive myself, have some empathy for myself, and then I can, start the process. It seems like it can be so nuanced if I'm really trying to keep an awareness, of this peace process, if you will.
I think that
well,
you
I'm gonna
have
just
to express the point of view, though. I really do. If you're just all mush, then if they're really, and people do have different opinions, and going back and forth is like the spice of life. And you get to a higher kind of resolution by hearing, the other side, or so to speak, by going back and forth. I love that. I just would suggest, don't argue with a lawyer.
Well,
guys, I do need to leave because I've got to
Thank you,
head
John.
off. But I
Thank you
wanted
so
to
much.
I will. But one little thought I'd leave with, in terms of what you were sharing there, Javi, and then I will head off. But I think that, in other words, what we're doing here is really just getting folks started down the path of just sort of thinking about maybe even just realizing that I've got some serious rewiring to do. And then there is a lot, there are a lot of professions, like there's mediation, there are a lot of life coaches, all sorts of folks that are sort of trying to advance that, as it were, the peace ball in a good direction. And I think you're right, though. Life, that's part of maybe the joy or the frustration sometimes of life, is that there's this constant, it seems to me, tension between the desire for connection, but how can we maintain connection without giving up our authenticity? And I think we're often struggling with those two. Like, I want to maintain connection, but does that mean that I lose my authentic sort of truth? And that's again, I think that's the dance of life that we're all engaged in constantly. And there's, I would almost say, given that we've had these thousands of years of wiring for war, for defensiveness, for fight, believing, and all of that, that we're really just at that sort of starting point of really embracing new ways. And that's why when I allude to that prisoner's dilemma and I say that's as far as we've got, I think we've got so much more work to be done in that arena. I mean, just think like today, how many billions of dollars were spent on how to kill other human beings from a research point of view, how much money was spent on manufacturing stuff that's going to kill people, and how many people died today in a horrific sort of warlike kind of a way. And conversely, how much money was spent on peace today. And that's our sad sort of reality in 2023. We've got a long way to go, but I think we're starting to see like the glimmer of light that gives us hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about the money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
tough thing.
I'm gonna leave now, folks, but it was really a treat. I enjoyed this, and be well. And thank you, Javi. Thank you, Sosha. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you,
I gotta go.
John.
Bye,
Great to
guys.
see you.
See you, John.
Bye now.
Keep that beat rolling.
Take care. Oh, there you are, Javi. Yeah, I was just
Cool.
gonna say, What you were saying, it takes an incredible amount of patience, and even just listening to Marilyn and John just talk about being aware, like the awareness of listening. So many people tune out. And it's so easy to tune out when you just have shit in your, sorry to curse on the thing, but when you just have stuff in your head, unresolved stuff, it's so hard to be present when there's chatter and distraction. But I think what you're saying about arguing with people, having an argument with someone that you love, it's sort of like, I think a lot of this work that we're doing is just trying to hold on to that patience and that love feeling. It's like, oh, I love them. You know what? I'm going to give them some time and I'm going to listen to them. And if you really have these opinions too, it's like they're not going. And it's this feeling of patience. I always remind myself, like, it's not going anywhere. I'm still going to have these unresolved things and it's going to take time. But I think, just in talking about this program, it definitely helps like pull you back and take sort of like a, an overhead view. How am I acting in this situation? And should I be patient? And how is this going to play out if I keep arguing? Maybe I should step back. It's like just this awareness training. It gives so much, like it helps so much.
Yeah.
So I'm happy we get to talk about it a bit and just bring more awareness.
That sort of zoomed out perspective, the zoomed out perspective or the observer perspective.
I'm going to try to get David Way, Sheldon, if Xochi's not in Ethiopia, you, Nona, the local peace games, we're going to rename them ambassadors. Sosha doesn't like that language. I kind of agree with her.
I think peacemaker, what you were kind of having a little riff with different ways of saying, who are we? What do we call ourselves? I thought peacemaker sounds so great to me.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's a creative thing. You're kind of in the moment and you're trying to make something with other people. And
how do
collaboration.
All right, so can we call it pushing for peacemakers? Does that sound too weird?
Peace pusher.
Why does pacemaker come to mind?
Okay, yeah, we got to work on it. We're constantly working on our verbiage. I mean, I think that really
peace pusher.
Yeah, peace pusher.
Hey kid, I got some peace drugs here.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
Oh my god.
Maybe we need a song. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe we need a jingle.
So she'll write a song for us.
I would be happy to.
Yeah.
I think John's really bringing a lot to us right now, as far as he's somebody that I know. I've worked a lot with him on. I've spoken a lot with him about his verbiage for his MC set. And what I like about him is he's pretty open and humble about the fact that he himself spends a lot of time working on communication. It's a constant thing, every time I see him, he's like really trying to find the right words. And so I really respect that about him. Marilyn is a little bit more in the flow and just ready to attack the problem. So I think the push and pull between their energy is just so powerful. And I feel like a lot of us duos, like you and Nona, my partner that I'm starting to teach him some Kung Fu and some Tai Chi meditation, different things to like release stuff out of the body. And I feel like these partnerships really like having two people with different energies, and it's like symbolizing that push-pull for everyone in the class. It's good. I think we can really kind of take what Marilyn and John are doing, and we can try it. We can
John
try a new
is really great at zooming out
Yeah.
and having the overview and seeing how things should be structured and ordered. He is great at that.
He's very calm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Brilliant. Just brilliant.
Yeah, that was good. I think he explained things really well. So
Yeah, he's a professor after all.
we have people watching in or listening in.
I can't see. I don't know. It may have malfunctioned. I'm not sure. I really don't know.
This is recording.
Yeah, it's recorded.
Yeah,
He was
I'm
turning
recording this. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
great.
you know,
in purpose, thank you. Thanks. Can we thank the listeners and the viewers for taking
Absolutely.
the time to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Pushing for peace.org, empathyset.org. I have a
He's a
page that I
.com.
just put up too.
.com.
Yin Yang.
Avi,
What? Sorry.
he's a .com and we're a .org. He's not a .org.
Yeah, it's empathy.
He-
We'll put it in
Yeah.
the
We'll put it
comments.
on the,
Yeah.
put it on the website.
Okay.
Website.
Thanks again, ladies. Good to see you. I'll see you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
there you go. Oh, you were gonna see you tomorrow?
Oh, is
Yeah,
that
I'm
when you
coming in
come down?
tomorrow.
All right, let's get together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
I
you
need to,
have
I
time-
need to, I need to train, and I'd be so happy to see you. So, is Nona coming too?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
This is what I have to park their
Yes.
car in there
Oh,
going to
okay.
Hawaii.
All right, great. I'll
Yeah.
bring my partner and we'll get it going.
Well, what time are you gonna be here?
Probably around 6 or 7-ish.
For all the listeners, don't stalk Javi, okay? We have security,
Yeah,
so.
Uh-huh. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just
I'll
playing.
talk to y'all soon.
All right, well, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Javi.
Text me from the road so I get an update of like how soon you, and plan to eat with me. You know I'll make
Okay,
something.
it sounds good. Yeah,
All
we'll
right,
make
Javi, thank
something.
you
We'll
for-
make something.
Bring
Bye.
down something from
See
the
you soon.
over and out.
All right, bye. Take care.
I don't think this thing ever worked.
Really?
Stupid thing.